Hey, Tim DeStasio here. It is Psychrometric Saturday once again. We've been talking about sensible heat ratio, the scale that's on the right side of the chart. And when we figure out what our sensible heat ratio is from our heat load calculation, in this case is 0.80, we draw that line that connects 0.80 on our sensible heat ratio scale through this dot. That is our indoor design conditions. We need a supply air temperature that can be plotted somewhere in this quadrant of the chart. Now we can figure out how much CFMs we need to move by using our sensible heat formula, flipping it around and solving for CFMs. When we do that, assuming we have a 20-degree delta T, we come up with 909 CFMs for this particular load calculation. Let's do a quick diagnostic here. Let's say that our service call complaint is that on a hot, humid day, our unit cannot keep up. Well, we don't even need to break out our gauges to diagnose this, and I'm going to show you how. The first thing that we need to do is a heat load calculation, and for that, I use Conduit Tech. Conduit Tech is an app that works on an iPad Pro. You scan the house and you measure it. You enter in the data regarding the home's construction and its R values, and it gives you a manual J certified heat load calculation. Let's say that when we do that, it comes up with these numbers right here, 25,000 total, 20,000 sensible. It's going to do the math for it. Conduit Tech's going to tell us we've got a 0.80 sensible heat ratio. The other thing that Conduit Tech's going to do is the sensible heat formula. It's going to flip it around. It's going to solve for CFM. It's going to assume a 20-degree delta T, and it's going to estimate that our target CFM is going to be around 900 CFMs. Now, the next thing we need to do is see whether we're actually making 900 CFMs. And for that, I like to use the True Flow Grid from the Energy Conservatory. It is the most accurate way of measuring airflow. Now, let's say that when we measure that airflow, we only come up with 700 CFMs. What does that mean? We need more air. Maybe our air did have a 20-degree drop across a coil, but we're not moving enough of it. Well, we either need to make that air colder or we need to move more air. But let's say that when we measured our CFMs, we did come up with around 900 CFMs and our system still isn't keeping up. Well, we would want to plot what our supply air temperature is. And to do that, we're going to need some psychrometers. And let's say that we plot our supply air temperature and it is somewhere right here at 55 degrees, just like what we figured it would be with a 20-degree delta T from 75 to 55, but we are plotting the dew point just slightly above where this line is. So we're not in this quadrant of the chart, we're in this one. Well, that means that our system is not going to be able to maintain those conditions when it gets really hot and humid outside. Well, why would our unit not put out the kind of air that we expect it to? The system just may not have that capability. Maybe it's a 2-ton unit and it is stretched as far as it can go, and it just can't get that air cold enough or dry enough to maintain conditions, so our unit's undersized. Or our entering conditions may not be here at 75 and 55 as we've assumed. Maybe we've got a return duct leak, and those return ducts are in a hot attic. We're pulling in hot, humid air, and maybe we're starting out way over here. Well, that's going to drag everything on the supply side a little bit warmer, a little bit wetter, and we're not going to be able to maintain the conditions that a room needs to. So that's how we can plot this information using all this math. But what I'm telling you is don't do any of this by hand. Use the technology. Use Conduit Tech, the True Flow Grid. Use your Smart Pros. Plug it into MeasureQuick. All those tools are going to do all this for you. You're going to be able to compare your heat load calculation to your actual system performance and figure out what the problem is. So I know I threw a lot of diagnostics at you. My main point is use the software. Don't do any of this stuff by hand, but at least you need to know the theory behind how it works. That's all for this time. Thanks for joining me on Psychrometric Saturday.